What's up YouTube, Capital G here, doing another episode of Boomer Bust. This time we're talking about the Kosmos in this video, and I haven't done Boomer Bust in quite some time. I think the last time that I did it, it was around a little after the Secret Forces was released. I didn't do any for crossovers because that set really only had one major archetype, that would be the Zephyra, and I feel like, they were just kind of blah. Like, they, from what I've seen, don't have a huge fan following, but in Clash of Rebellion, we're getting a ton of different archetypes. Obviously, we'll be talking about the Cosmos in this video, but aside from that, like, you have Red Eyes, you have the Arrow Mages, you have Ignites, you have the Kaiju, which are still kind of like really incomplete. But let's focus on the Cosmos in this video. Now, I'm gonna be pretty blunt, and if you saw the top 10 decks of the format, the Yu-Gi-Oh hierarchy for this format, you know where I'm pretty much going with this video. I'm giving this deck a huge boom. I think that even with only 5 cards to its name, which is identical to what Burning Abyss launched with, I think that this is going to be a huge, I think this is going to be definitively one of the better meta decks. I don't even mean like tier 2 level. I'm talking about like tier 1 level, potentially like top 2 decks in the game, maybe by the end of like next format. I'm not sure about this format, but I'm sure that Konami will make, more adjustments, and as other decks get weaker, this deck will obviously get stronger. Now, I think that there are 3 primary reasons. Number 1 is how much advantage this deck makes off of one card. The main card that I see where literally if you resolve it, a lot of times you just win the duel, obviously, is Cosmo Farm Girl. You don't necessarily have to draw her for one. You have cards like Emergency Teleport, which can summon her straight from the deck, but the fact is, anytime that this card does any battle damage, you essentially just get the tutor for something, like you automatically go +1, and then you can actually summon that same card in the battle phase and just summon it on your opponent and attack with that monster too, which means not only does this card pay for itself on attack, so you don't really care like what happens to it after that, but the fact is, if you summon something like a Forerunner, I mean, you're pushing in for 5,300 damage and one battle phase, like off of one card that you don't even technically have to draw. The second reason is how much utility this card right here. I think that Cosmo Town is really what builds, like, it's what makes this a legitimate competitive deck. I actually look at this and I'm thinking, this is probably one of the best field spells ever created. Like, this is like in league with Rainbow Ruins, Ancient City Rainbow Ruins, the Crystal Beast field spell, which a lot of people will probably roll their eyes at. They'll say, Cap, that card is terrible. No. People need to understand, Rainbow Ruins is an amazing card. Crystal Beasts just aren't very good. Like, the card is way better than the Crystal Beast archetype. Cosmo Town does so much for this deck. For one, it fixes bad hands. Those hands that you will lose with other archetypes because you draw too many monsters, that's not an issue with this deck. You just you activate the second effect, you show your opponent a Cosmo, you shuffle them back, you fix your hand, you get the other cards that you need. Maybe you want a Ghost Ogre, Snow Rabbit, defensive card you can use from your hand. Maybe you want that Vanities or that Solemn Warning to type to back up a Forerunner so that you can essentially just win with that card. The fact that anytime that this card is destroyed, it just replaces itself is just like, that's absurd, which means that the bane of pretty much all field spell existence, being simple spell and trap removal, a la cards like Mystical Space Typhoon, they don't do anything. They don't do anything to this deck. And even better, let's say that you already have a second copy where things like drawing multiples would be bad. Like, if this card gets destroyed and you already have another in your hand, you can just get a monster. So it is so much utility. And then obviously the first effect, which just, I mean, it really does make all of these. When I first saw these cards, I was like, oh man, they have to banish themselves to summon another one. Like, that's really not good card economy. But then it's like, oh wait, you get to add any banished one back to the hand. Yeah, so I think that this effect will pretty much be used. This will be the most used effect, and it'll be used every single turn. Just being able to get your farm girls, your good witches back. If for some reason you summon a monster off of Emergency Teleport and you can't get that monster off the field, maybe you summon a Serene Psychic Witch and it ends up getting banished because of Emergency Teleport's effect, and or what's it called? Not Serene Psychic Witch, but let's just say you summon a Farm Girl. For some reason, it gets banished during the end phase. It's not really a problem. You just get to add it back to your hand regardless. The third reason, and this is probably going to be this is going to be one of the I think it could become like a format defining play, is going to be this big guy right here, Cosmo Forerunner. I think that if you look at everything kind of post Duelist Alliance, I do not think that these newer decks, these decks like Serteller Knights and Shadows, and even something like Yosenju, Burning Abyss, like they are not equipped to handle a card like Leo every single turn. And that's essentially what this card is. It's Leo, it just has a little bit less attack. I mean, it's kind of absurd, the fact that he gives you 1,000 life points every single turn, because free Solemn Warnings are pretty much a good thing. Oh, you thought that your opponent couldn't use Solemn Warning because you got them to 1,700 life points? Nope. All they have to do is just keep this on the field a couple of turns and bam, they can use Solemn Warning. But, outside of Regeki and Darkhole, there are not a ton of good ways to kill monsters outside of targeting them. Mirror Force is a card that's kind of fallen off. Maybe you can even throw Torrential Tribute in that mix with Regeki or something like that. But if you just look at these archetypes, these post-Duelist Alliance archetypes, most of these decks only have maybe one core way, like one good practical way in their archetype. That's not something like Regeki. I'm talking about, if you look at Serteller Knights, the main way that they're probably going to want to get Forerunner off the field is maybe with something like Trevor. If you look at Shadows, it has to be Construct. With Burning Abyss, it's probably going to be, Acid Golem or something like that. With Yosenju, I mean, I honestly can't really think of a way. Well, I think, could you make Tiger King? Yeah, you might be able to make Tiger King and negate its effect and then kill it that way. But the thing is, even if you kill this card while it's face up on the field, I mean, if you kill it and send it to the graveyard, like, you don't really do anything. I mean, that second effect is ridiculous. When it hits the graveyard, you just banish it, which obviously will just let you go plus because of Cosmo Town, but then you just banish it and then you just replace it. So this is going to be one of those cards that decks are going to struggle to get rid of. The only deck that I can think of that can pretty much handle this card at any given time would be the Necros, because Necros, they can summon Valkyries, they can simply attack over it, they obviously can Trishula it, they can summon the Necros of Decisive Armor. So like they have a bunch of different ways of killing this card, and none of them are that, like, they're really not that difficult for this deck. But overall, I think that this is a deck that uses very, like, it makes a lot of advantage off of minimal plays. One Farm Girl can be just like all you need to make enough advantage to win the duel. You look at this field spell and it does everything for the deck. And I look at all of these monsters, and I mean, they just, even the big guys, they just float so hard. Slip Rider hits the field and he instantly is, he's MSTing something. When he's in the graveyard, you just banish him and he summons something else. So like, these monsters, not only when they hit the field, these big guys, are they giving you, these really good effects of gaining 1,000 life points, blowing up backward or something like that. But even when you jump through hoops and you finally kill them, you don't really kill them, because not only are they going to be added back to the opponent's hand during their next turn, but they replace themselves with other monsters. So let me know what you guys think. I think that Kosmos are going to be really good. I think that the only thing that people are going to have to figure out is what is the right amount of, like, what is kind of the right amount of traps that this deck is going to need to be successful, because I think that the monsters and the spells pretty much have, like, they've already kind of defined themselves. I mean, you're going to use your core engine of the 4 monsters. You're probably going to run some teleports. You're going to throw in Cosmo Town, and then maybe a couple of other good psychic cards like Ghost Ogre, Snow Rabbit, Serene Psychic Witch, mainly because not only do they have decent synergy with the deck, mainly Serene Psychic Witch, but then they're both, teleport targets and whatnot. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. I think this deck's going to be big. Thank you guys for watching, as always.